Hi, I'm George, and we'll be doing some photo retouching on this portrait using the Photoshop Elements healing brush and spot healing brush. Now if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. Also make sure you hit share and subscribe as well. When you click on subscribe, make sure you hit that bell icon to get notifications of my new videos. And if you really want to learn how to use Photoshop Elements, the best way to do that is with my complete training course, and there's a link for that right down there in the description. There are lots of ways of doing photo retouching inside of Photoshop Elements. My two favorites though are the healing brush and the spot healing brush, and they're both right up here. In the tool options at the bottom down here, you'll see we have the spot healing brush on the left hand side and the healing brush on the right hand side. They work a little bit differently, but they basically do the same thing. I tend to go with the spot healing brush as much as possible. It seems to be just the easiest to use and does a great job. But the healing brush also has good uses as well. Just take an example in here. This is the original photograph without any retouching on this, and then here it is with the spot retouch. Let me just click on and off a bit here. You can see that. So real nice, very clean kind of retouching on this. But there are a few things to do to make this work out as nicely as possible. I'm just going to get rid of these two layers up here. I'll delete both of those. And I'll make a new layer above the background. We'll be doing all of our retouching on this new layer without touching the original background. Now the way you do that, and this is the first and most important tip here, is to come down into the tool options. It doesn't matter which one of these two tools you're working with, either the spot healing or the healing brush. Make sure that sample all layers is checked. There it is for spot healing, and here it is over here for the healing brush. So make sure that that's checked. What that allows you to do is to work on a new layer like this, and then when you do your selections, it's going to find the image down below, make your selections from below, and put your adjustments up on your new layer up here, keeping the original clean. With the spot healing brush, we have three options. Proximity match, this is the basic one and usually works just fine. Create texture has some interesting uses, but it does put in a texture in there. And then content aware kind of works like proximity match. It supposedly is a little bit better than the proximity match. I really haven't found that much of a difference in most cases between the two. Over here you can choose your brush type. By default it's going to be giving you a hard edge brush. I personally prefer to use a soft edge brush, so I'll scroll down and find a soft edge brush. Now the size you use, that's your size right there, the size you use will depend upon what you're doing. You mostly want to get this just a little larger than what it is that you want to fix. You can see there's that brush size right here. So if I wanted to fix this little spot there, see how it's about, the brush size is about 3 times across the diameter as the spot. That seems to be about right. So that works out pretty good. Here's our size again right there. You can adjust your size here, but just doing it from the drop down list, it should be just fine. Now the way you use the spot healing brush is simply to find a spot and then just click on it like that. And what Photoshop Elements does is it looks around and grabs stuff around that and just kind of pastes it on top. It's actually a clone stamp style tool. Let's zoom in really close so you can see this in action. There we go. We'll go back to our spot healing brush. Just find a spot, click on it like that, and it pretty much just goes away. So it's very, very easy to use, as you can see. Now there are some other ways of working on this, but this is the basic way, is just to go through, find your spots. Now at this point I'm in way too close on this. I really don't like working this close. So I'll just go back here and we'll zoom out a bit. I like working with the image about regular size, maybe just a little closer than that. That's really pretty good right here because that's what you'd be looking at the image as, so there's no reason to really go any closer than that. And just find the spots you want to fix and then come in and just tap on them like that, and this will take care of most of the job for you. Now this is a long process. There'll be a lot of little spots. You may have to go over a spot 2 or 3 times, so just take your time and work around and work slowly to get the best result on this. Now I have a bit of a line almost up here. You can just drag a line like that and it will give you a longer fix. So you don't have to do just dots. You can come in and actually drag in lines if there's a bit of a line in what you want to fix. In most cases though, the dot will really work out best for you. Okay, that's using the regular brush. Let's switch over here to the content aware, and I'll do a few more of these in here. Just do some stuff up in here with this. There's some dragging a line in there. And notice it really is working just about as well as the proximity. No real difference that I've really found on this between these two different brushes. So they're roughly equivalent. Now the create texture is kind of interesting. It actually puts in a texture, but it can be useful at times. It has real kind of a bright highlight in here, a bit of a reflection, bit of shininess. This actually is a good brush for this kind of a spot. As when it puts in a texture, it tends to also cut down on some highlights like that. So by doing that, you can get rid of those hot spots in there. Subtle reflections on the nose is okay. Bright reflections on lips, that's fine. Or reflections in the eyes, that's fine. But in the forehead, you probably want to get rid of that. Now, I'd only use that for that kind of an area. For everything else, I'll stick with the regular tools. And I'll actually come back in here and fix up that eyebrow right there as well. Okay, so that's how you use the spot healing brush. Again, it takes a little while to do this. Just take your time and work through, and you get a very nice and very easy to do job with this. Let's take a look now at the other tool, and that is the healing brush tool. Works a little bit differently, but basically the same kind of results. Same idea. I'm just going to shut that one off. I'm going to rename this one up here Spot. That's our spot healing. Let's make a new layer up here. I hid the spot healing layer. And we'll do this using the healing brush tool. Now this works more like the clone stamp tool, where you hold the Alt key down and you click on a spot you want to copy from, and then move in and paste into where you want to paste it into. Now the difference between this tool and the clone stamp tool is that with a clone stamp you get an exact copy. So if I copy it up here, kind of a darker area, into this lighter area down here, there's going to be a dark spot. You can see it right there. Kind of a dark spot as I move that around. That's what you would see. But with the healing brush tool, what happens is it copies the texture from the area that you're copying from and then adjusts the values and the color to match the area that you're pasting into. And that can be very useful on this kind of retouch. I'm just going to grab a spot right here. So it's the Alt key and click, and then come down. I'll do a little paint like that. So it's very good at this kind of retouching. But again, with this tool, you're choosing where you want to copy from. So if I wanted to copy from up here, I could put that down here. So you can copy, quite a ways away if that seems to be appropriate for what you're doing. In most cases, you'll be copying from someplace close to where you're pasting it to, because the textures will match the best. So the forehead textures are all pretty close. The textures on the cheeks are good for other textures on the cheeks. You see here they're actually a lot softer than the textures in the forehead. So you want to, most of the time, do your sampling very close to where you are doing your repair. But if I'm copying here from this lighter area over into this darker area, the healing brush tool takes care of the values in there for me, so I don't need to worry about that. Again, very nice way to come in and do some very easy photo retouching in here using these different tools. The options down below here. We have the size, of course, that's right there. The brush settings, this allows you to use pen pressure or a stylus wheel if you're working with two of those options, or turn that off. You can adjust the angle, you can adjust the, there it is right there. You can adjust the width if you want to have a different shape brush, you can do that right here. That's also your roundness control. You can adjust spacing, but this will just give you kind of dots, so I just leave that at the default. You can adjust your hardness right here. I like 0 hardness on my brushes. The align keeps your copy from and copy to spaces equivalent as you work. Most of the time you don't want to have that one checked. Over here you have different options, sampled or pattern. I always go for sampled. That's sampling the texture of where you're copying from. You have different modes in here: normal, replace, multiply, screen, darken, lighten, color, and luminosity. In most cases, normal is the correct choice in here. And then down here, this is just what you're seeing as you're rolling your brush over your image, looking for what you want to copy. Show overlay, let me just undo that. Notice I'm no longer seeing that overlay. So you almost always want to have show overlay showing, so you can see what you're copying. There it is. Just easier to use. You can adjust the opacity of that right here. You can auto hide and invert overlay. I leave mine always at clip. So I never actually change these settings right here. You can really just ignore those and you should be just fine. Again, the only really important setting in here is the sample all layers, and that allows you to make all of your adjustments on its own layer. So I can then show or hide this and see how I'm doing. Look at the forehead up here. There's before and there's after. So there you go. That's working with the spot healing brush, what I normally use, and the healing brush, and a few of the tricks on how to work with this and get the most out of these two tools. And they're both very powerful and very easy to use photo retouching tools. Okay, if you had fun with this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to click on share and click on subscribe as well. And take a look at my complete training course for Photoshop Elements. There's a link for that right down there in the description. All right, and I'll see you next time.